Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today I have the good fortune to be interviewing Danielle Perlin-Good, a prominent ghostwriter, book coach, and developmental editor. She works with emerging Csuite leaders to unleash their memoirs, self-help, and personal growth nonfiction books so they can share their powerful legacies and transform lives. Danielle, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Seth. I am so happy to be here today with you.
All right, let's go back in time. How did you get started?
Absolutely. So I have a background in journalism, and I majored way back when in news editorial journalism, did a couple of stints at a local publishing company as well as the Chicago Tribune Company. And after that, I decided to dive into digital marketing. And afterwards, I really decided to utilize my skill sets with digital marketing and editing and writing and combine them to do book coaching, editing, and now ghostwriting.
Okay, so I'm sure the longer version of that could be in a book, your own book somewhere.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely awesome. So you work with emerging C-suite leaders. What are some of the biggest mistakes they're making when it comes to getting their message out?
And that's a great question, Seth. So one of the main things that I see is when I meet with a potential client, a C-suite level executive of any sort, a lot of people come to me and say, I really want to write a book, but I'm not sure how to do it in terms of time, in terms of where do I even start, and then in terms of mindset. And it's really interesting, Seth, that a lot of my conversations with both book coaching and ghostwriting actually have more to do with mindset than the actual act of creating the book. It's very interesting.
Okay, so talk about that, expand on that. What do you mean by mindset, and why is that such an issue?
Absolutely. So I love talking about something called, and it's my personal framework called the 4 pillars, and it's actually going to be a book eventually. And one of the pillars is mindset. And due to this as well, I'm actually getting certified in energy healing, and I'm able to do meditations. And one example is I had a ghostwriting client the other day who was basically in tears about something else unrelated to our work together. And she wanted to reschedule our meeting. She could not talk about her memoir at that time. And I said, let's do a 10-minute meditation. And you know what? Her headache went away and she felt better the next day. Actually, she told me that via email and even said that she felt better that afternoon. And to me, that means that the meditation and making sure that our mindsets are aligned creates that success, right? Because if our mindset isn't aligned with our ultimate goals and what we want to achieve, Seth, then we're not going to be able to achieve them. Nobody else is telling us we need to write a book, right? We might have an assistant, we might have somebody else, we might have followers saying, you should write a book, you should write a book. But really, when it comes down to it, it's up to you. It's up to the person. And if you're telling yourself that you cannot do something, then that's going to affect what your ultimate goals are and what your deliverables are to yourself.
That makes a lot of sense. Why do you think so many leaders have that mental block or have those limiting beliefs? What causes those that prevent them from getting their message out?
Another great question. I think that a lot of times people go through experiences in life that some are negative, some are positive. We all have them, right? And what happens is, especially if we're writing a book that is nonfiction, a prescriptive nonfiction book, whether it's memoir, self-help, personal growth, we all utilize some sort of these personal experiences in these books. And what I have seen happen over the years is a lot of these authors, when we dig up these experiences, we don't necessarily, they're not able to fully comprehend exactly what happened or exactly how these experiences affected them in a negative way. And they weren't able to properly deal with these experiences. And so we dig them up and they come up again. And they recognize and realize that, hey, wait a second, I have all of this success. I'm a C-suite level executive. I've built my own company. I've climbed up the corporate ladder. I've done all of these amazing things, but I still went through these specific experiences in my childhood, right? And if we don't recognize that, and if we're not acknowledging that, that's really the first step in acknowledging that we have these limiting beliefs about ourselves due to these experiences that we had, sometimes as children, teenagers, and sometimes even as adults.
Now, I know you run into the issue from time to time of the person saying, well, why should I have a book? Why should anybody listen to me? I'm just a normal person. How do you handle that one?
Absolutely. So what I say to that person is, look at a local bookstore, go to Barnes and Noble, go somewhere where you can see the shelves and you can go to the self-help section. You can even do this online. You could do this on Amazon if you want. You could do this at, Bookshop. There's a lot of different websites, different places to go. And what happens is there's different genres, there's different categories of books, right? You look at Gabby Bernstein, Brene Brown, they started out as nobodies also, right? Where did they start out? Brene Brown is somebody who actually sold books out of her car, right? And look at her now. And, for somebody who says, why me? I say to them, why not you, right? So what I also say is there's only a certain amount of ideas in this world, right? We all have a lot of the same ideas. But what makes those books unique, Seth, is our perspective. We all have a unique perspective. If we're at a wedding, if we're in a room full of people, right, we all experience that wedding, that festivity, right? But we all experience it in our unique way, right? We all have a unique perspective on that event. So think about if we're writing a book on an idea, we all have a unique perspective, whether it's grief, spirituality, something like shame and vulnerability, like what Brene Brown talks about, leadership. We all have different ways of expressing these unique perspectives.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the biggest reasons on the other side? Why should someone write a book? Why should they get their message out there? Why do they want to do that?
Absolutely. So there's a few reasons why I always tell people that you want to write a book. Okay, one is because it gives you more credibility, number one. If you want to become a speaker, if you want to have some type of online course, if that's something that you want that's in your future, if you consider yourself a thought leader and want that for yourself, then you need a book to go along with your brand, right? And it's really important, Seth, to make sure that this book is of high quality, okay? Because we want to make sure that the people who you're reaching with your book, they open it and they learn something from your book. This isn't just something you wrote in 24 hours or a weekend. This is something that you have written and you have spent a lot of time and energy and a lot of effort putting together, right? So that's really number one. And another reason why somebody should write a book is because, again, you have your unique perspective on this idea, right? There are so many different books out there, and there's a reason why there are different people who love different genres. That's why book clubs exist, right? Like people meet, people talk about books, people have conversations about books because everybody who reads that book then has a different perspective, right? And it's so interesting to me why somebody who has been so successful in their life, people who might be listening to this podcast right now might say to themselves, why me? Why should I write a book, right? And to them, I also say, why not you, right? If you don't write it, then what happens when somebody else does? Somebody else might have a similar unique perspective on that idea. Somebody might take that and run with it and say, I can do this, right? So I encourage everybody listening to make sure that you believe in yourself, right? That we conquer those limiting beliefs that are telling you that you cannot write this book. And instead, we reframe that and we say, I can write this book, right? And the other thing to think about is a lot of these C-suite level executives don't have the time, right? Time is a huge factor, right? These C-suite level executives, I have a couple clients who also volunteer, right? They have all these different responsibilities. They have families to take care of. One of my clients has a special needs child, right? There are a lot of really important things in life that we have to take care of. And we say we want to write a book. Well, who's going to write it, right? That's where a ghostwriter comes in, Seth. So it's really important to understand the reasoning why somebody would hire a coach or a ghostwriter to help them through this process. And the difference is that a coach helps you move through the process and you write the book yourself. A ghostwriter works with you, interviews you, gets those stories, digs deep. And I like to say, I unearth the story inside your soul, right? So I make sure that those stories that mean so much to you are on the page, and we create scenes. We make sure that what you want to say to your readers is authentic and beautiful and unique.
That is awesome. You have written hundreds of articles, tons of content. You've been quoted multiple times as saying a book is the ultimate business card. What do you mean by that?
Book is the ultimate business card. Yes, I have said that. That is correct. So to me, I believe that when you have a book out under your name, then you, even if it's an anthology, like I have a chapter in an anthology that's out right now as well. And if you have that to showcase your brand, you don't have to say, oh, I have this freebie. Oh, I have this other course. Oh, I have this other thing that I'm doing right now, right? You have all of that in one in the book, right? And you can direct people, you can direct your target audience where you want them to go, right? And you also build that know, like, and trust factor so much more easily when you have a book, right? And when you write a book too, you know, a lot of people think, oh, it has to be a certain word count, right? It doesn't actually have to be any particular word count because there's so many beautiful different ways of publishing nowadays, right? There are, the last statistic I heard was there are over 400,000 books published on Kindle on a daily basis.
Wow.
How crazy is that?
I did not know that one. That is insane.
Yeah.
There are different ways that you work with clients. Talk a little bit about the different like tiers of service that you've got.
Absolutely. So one of them is developmental editing as well as book coaching. And I'm actually heading more into my upper level service for ghostwriting that I'll talk about in just a minute. And again, book coaching and developmental editing is where my team and I really work with the individual and get those ideas on paper, make sure we have a proper outline, and then they're responsible for coming up with that content. Now, the timeline is different for everybody. So that's why in the initial meeting, I have 3 questions I always ask everybody, whether we're going ghostwriting route or we're going coaching route. So we always talk about the main theme of the book. What is the main theme that you need your target audience to understand, right? And then we talk about the target audience. We say, we don't have to say exactly who the target audience is at the very beginning, but we have to have a certain idea, we can't say anybody who likes reading. If you say anybody who likes reading, then it's going to be a lot harder when we come to the end to develop that proper marketing strategy to make sure that the book actually reaches who you want it to reach, right? And then we also talk about the ultimate goals of the book. Do you want this book to be a memoir that is self-published, that is for your family and friends? Or do you want this to be a thought leadership book that will propel you in your career as a speaker, as a coach yourself? What kind of direction do you want your book to go in? And then I always love to ask a very specific question of what defines you as a successful author? What does that mean to you? And people have different answers to what being a successful author means to them, right? So then we talk about time, we talk about money along with all of this. And we talk about a number of different things in my initial interview with a potential client. And from there, we also talk about what makes sense for them in terms of how they want to achieve this goal of creating this book. Now, ghostwriting is the next tier, and that's a higher level of money, of compensation, right? Because it's not them that's writing, it's me that's writing. Usually it's a 6 or a 12-month program that I offer depending on the time of year. And what happens with that is we sit down, we have an onboarding call, we go through the outline together, we go through what we want the book to be about, we go through all those questions that I just talked to you about, and we figure out, what that time frame is, right? We figure out approximately how many chapters are we going to do, parts, what scenes are we going to be creating, right? And again, this changes, right? A lot of times authors can get stuck in the middle third of the book. This is a very common problem. And what happens, and I'll take one of my clients as an example, she just sent me a couple of chapters and said, oh, chapters 5 and 6, but they're probably 1 and 2. And this is very, very common that we start writing and we truly believe that we're on the right track. And then we say to ourselves, wait a second, I actually need to backtrack. And you know what? That also happens when we're working with a ghostwriter, right? It's never going to be specific from the very beginning that we know exactly what chapter everything is about from the very beginning. It's okay that it changes, right? That's why we have those interviews. That's why we work together to unearth that story inside your soul.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you do?
I absolutely love interviewing and getting to know my clients. I feel like I know my clients probably better than some of their best friends, some of their family members, because they tell me things in confidence that they have not told anybody in their entire lives, about relationships, about their childhoods, very intimate details. And I feel such privilege and love towards them that I get to have this privilege of working with them and sharing their story. And I truly, truly believe in the power of sharing everybody's story. And for all the listeners who say, well, I don't know if my story is good enough, your story is good enough because my clients' stories are good enough, and you are better than good enough.
Awesome. For our folks watching or listening that want to learn more about you and what you're doing, where is the best place for them to go?
Absolutely. I would love for them to check out my website, DaniellePerlin-Good.com. And there you can actually download an amazing freebie called 10 Ways to Find Your Ultimate, it's the Ultimate Guide, 10 Ways to Find Your Perfect Fit Ghostwriter. And here I divulge a lot of really great information. If you are not sure if you need a ghostwriter, if you don't really understand the process still, it's a really great way. It's a free guide to do that. And if you want to get in touch with me directly, I highly recommend connecting with me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to look for me. And all you do is it's linkedin.com/IN, I believe, /Danielle Perlin-Good.
Awesome. Well, this has been Seth Greene here with Danielle Perlin-Good. Danielle, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening. We'll see you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.